it, dude. Gosh dang it. Okay, now we're live. All right, what's going on, Lake Pro
I'm live.
Tackle
You're
family?
live right now. You're live right now on mine.
Okay, well, I'm a noob, I guess. So anyway, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Late Night at Lake Pro Tackle. John and I are going to be hammering it out on these dual live streams going on. He is live streaming off his personal YouTube, Facebook. I'm going to be on the YouTube here at Lake Pro Tackle. So we just hit 2,000 subscribers. Looks like we've got 4 people in here right now, which I'm very surprised about, actually. I'm guessing it's Bennett and Gavin, some other people. So, guys, stay tuned. Enjoy this little pop-up episode. Hopefully we can do some more here in the future. Keep the comments rolling in, and John and I are going to be dual streaming. So make sure to add some questions in for John as well as for myself.
So basically for the guys on YouTube or the people on YouTube, we're going to be talking about braid to leader. Okay, and how to spool your braided line onto your fishing reel properly. The number one excuse that I get from people that are opposed to fishing braid to leader, especially in the swim bait community, is casting off baits. Right?
Yeah, and I've casted off a couple with braid to leader, but that was before I knew the knot to fix all knots.
Right. The knot is important, but even more important than the knot, in my opinion. Now, I have been fishing the FG knot for probably a quarter of a century. Okay.
You old son.
I'm just saying, and it was for tuna, mostly tuna and other pelagics like reef jig fishing and stuff like that offshore. But nonetheless, I have been fishing the FG knot, the PR knot, page ranking knot, and different variations of it for over a quarter of a century. And if you go back to my old YouTube channel, I was probably one of the very first anglers in North America to introduce the FG knot to fishermen here. Okay, because I learned it from an angler in New Zealand. Okay. And
so do they know, I guess, like where the actual origin of the FG knot is, or where it's from?
I don't know.
Okay.
What I do know is like the page ranking knot and the FG knot are very similar knots. The only difference is the page ranking knot, you needed a bobbin, like a fly tying bobbin, to tie this knot.
Right.
They make PR bobbins. Dude, they're expensive. They're like $100. It's a tool to tie a knot, essentially.
Jeez.
Yeah, and so it was popular because it was still a very Oliver Nye's in the house. He says he hates using braid to fluorocarbon.
Well,
that's
I'm with you,
Oliver. Braid to fluorocarbon. That's a lie. But it's the whole idea of a page ranking knot was a knotless knot, streamlined, go through your guides, go through your reel, and that's what an FG knot does, right? But you don't need a tool. That's why it was so popular.
Right.
And so, like, I was tying that for years, and then like every time I get on a boat or a tuna boat, people would be like, "Hey, tie that for me." And I got sick of doing that. That's when I made the YouTube video like 15 years ago, right? And I was kind of tired of showing people or doing it for people, so I decided to show people how to do it. Now, here's the whole deal, man. And this is like the biggest thing. Oliver Nye says, people fishing with me always get butthurt when I laugh at them when they swing on rocks in trees, fishing straight fluorocarbon.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree.
I have casted off more baits on fluorocarbon than anything else on straight fluorocarbon. And I've gone as heavy as 30 pounds straight fluorocarbon, and I've casted off baits. But on braid to leader, dude, I may have casted off one bait ever. Like ever.
See, I've never done that. So I guess in my short time of like big bait throwing, right, when it comes to, like bull shads and tater hogs and all that, or like even like bigger mag drafts, I've only broken off bait or, casted off baits with braid to fluoro.
Okay, so here's the reason why. And this might it's kind of confusing, and people are going to argue this, but here's the deal. When you put braid on your bait casters, okay, by the time you're done spooling that braid on your bait caster, you need to be breaking sweat, okay? And here's what I mean by that. You need to spool that braid on under maximum tension and load so that the braid never digs into itself, no matter how hard you misfire and miscast. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. So like working at Bass Pro Shops for several years, I had a repeat customer. Like working at Bass Pro Shops, usually get kids that are like 18, 19, 20 that don't know what the hell they're doing. And I had this repeat customer because I was the only one that could tightly get braided line on those big, massive, like 6,000, 7,000 size reels, because I would spend like all the like 30, 40, 50 minutes like wrenching on this braid as it goes through these leather gloves onto the spool.
Yep. That's how you have to do it. And here's another thing. The more strands, the more PE strands that your braid consists of, the rounder it is, okay? If you're using a cheap braid that lays flat on your spool, I don't care how tight you spool it on, you're going to have problems. Okay, it's going to create creases. And now, here's another thing. You can use backing if you get really good at this, but I suggest using no backing and just electrical tape, okay? And just straight. And I know you're going to be like, well, I got a 300 size reel. If I use 50-pound braid, I could put a ton of 50-pound. That's too much money, and I'm only going to use like 70 yards of line ever, right? Well, you're being cheap about $16, so and you're casting $150 bait. That doesn't make any sense.
That's true. That's true.
And also, when I spool braid on my reels, they last a whole year because I tie 20 to 30 foot long leaders sometimes. Okay, and the braid has one property that's undeniable, or a few properties that's undeniable. It's strength to diameter ratio. Okay, right?
Absolutely.
Undeniably the best, right? No memory. Okay, it's the only line that has no memory.
There's a couple braids, like some of that spider wire stuff that's got like that waxy on it. But let's talk about we're talking about good braids.
Good, round, smooth braid. Right? So has no memory, okay? Stretch, no stretch. Oliver said he had a hard time spooling 12-pound braid on his BFS reel.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I mean 12-pound braid is what, the equivalent of like 3 pound mono?
2 or 3 pounds. Mono? Yeah.
That's like floss. It's like thinner than floss. It's like thread.
I've actually flossed with 10-pound smackdown several times.
But
I've gotten like honestly, Chick-fil-A or something in that pepper, on the chicken get stuck between my teeth.
Dude, here's the good thing about braided lines, guys. These days, what a lot of people don't know, unless you were in the saltwater fishing community, there's so many different kinds of braids. Did you know that there were 16-strand braid PE lines? Mm-hmm. Like the best braid in the world in my mind is either the Shimano Osha or the Daiwa Saltiga X16. Those are the best. Like it supersedes Verivas, some of the Verivas lines in my mind. Now there's also hollow core braids. You guys ever heard of JB hollow core, solid core? Now there are lines that have like a solid core and then like 8 strands, wrapped around them. And there's a bunch of other stuff, right? But the point is, the more strands, the smoother it is, the rounder it is. Okay. So using that style of line will benefit you. Like Victor is in here right now, right? Vic is like, when I told him I was throwing the TS10 on 40-pound braid to 25-pound leader, he was like, "You're so brave." And I'm like, I will throw a 6-ounce bait, no problem, on 40-pound braid to 30-pound leader or 35-pound leader, no problem. I won't break off.
I've thrown straight braid and I've broken some straight braid.
You can, because if that braid digs in, that braid digs in. Yeah, dude, it's like when you misfire and that line digs deep into your spool. Sometimes it's impossible to get it back out.
One of my buddies destroyed my like 20-pound fluoro reel. Like he just let that sucker go and go and go, and it was stuck.
And Victor said he didn't realize that I was using a mile-long leader. But and here's another thing, guys. Certain 40-pound braided lines, in Japanese terms, they call that basically PE4. Okay, PE4 actually has like a actual breaking strength a lot of times, unless it's an IGFA rated line. But I don't even think IGFA does braided lines, do they? I think it's all got to be mono. But most PE4 lines, so what we call 40-pound braid here, has an actual breaking strength of well over 50 pounds in most cases. Okay, and here's the thing: people always argue about like drag ratings and stuff like that, and It's like we don't even fish bait casters that's capable of detonating 40 pounds or putting out 40 pounds of drag, so
Yep.
and there's another misconception about drag ratings. Did you know, Sam? I'm sure you know this because you're in the fishing industry, but and I know Oliver probably knows this, but if a reel is advertised as 25 pounds of drag, right? That's on an empty spool. That's not on a full spool.
Yep.
Okay. If you've ever been fighting a big fish and like you got half the spool dumped and then you hook up and it just slips a little bit, you set that hook and you're winding. The closer you get, it feels like the fish is pulling harder because it's pulling drag. You're actually losing drag pressure as your spool fills up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's something a lot of people, I don't know. Some people may know, some people may not know.
One thing I really hate, there's obviously like, what's the word? There's always like a difference between like your American reels. Like let's take Luz and Abu, for example, at the shop, right? People will come in and they're like, hey, I want a frog reel or something, like I want a heavy cover, like, braid reel that has a ton of drag in it. And they see the Abu and they see the Luz and they're like, oh, this has like 18 to 24 pounds of drag, right? And then you get your Shimano and your Daiwas, and they're always rated at, let's say, 11 to like maybe 13, 14.
Right.
And it's like, they're always usually going to go towards that Luz and Abu. And this isn't like a bash at performance on Luz or Abu. This is just how can you have such a big difference in rating, right, between the two different drag systems and still basically perform the exact same? Like, what is that happy middle ground? Is it going to be that 10 pounds on that braid where it's really not going to matter, or is it like really much higher?
Well, here's the thing. How close is your thumb to your spool at all times?
It's on it. Whenever I set the hook, it's on it.
That's infinity drag. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, higher drag output is not problem. Smoother drag output is the biggest factor. I don't
Absolutely.
I don't care if it only gives me 8 pounds of drag, but if it's smooth, consistent 8 pounds of drag without it being jerky and sticky, that's what's important to me.
What I love too is, this is something I think a lot about all the time for whatever reason. When you get like inertia, what it takes to get something moving, the inertia behind the drag, and what you're talking about, the inertia behind those drags is so much harder on like a Luz or Abu compared to Shimano. I, like you, absolutely love the low inertia where it doesn't take a quick jerk for that drag to get going and being smooth.
Yeah. Dude, like, and in my honest opinion, for bass, you don't really need more than 10 pounds of drag. It's really, you just need a good smooth drag. That's it,
Yep.
And I was so picky about drags. Like when I was going tuna fishing, like spinning reels don't have a strike and max drag output like conventional reels do. So spinning reels, I would have to preset my drags. So before I went on my trip, I would literally have a boga scale and I would tie a knot at the end of my line, attach it to the boga scale, and set my drag to 22 pounds at strike. Okay. So, and I would leave it there at 22 pounds. And then if I needed more, then I knew at that point, because I'm fishing Saltigas and Stellas, that I knew that its micro adjustments were accurate, because that's why you fish the best, right? So there's no room for failure. So I would preset it like that, and I would be, and dude, it's smooth. Like the best reels in the world are smooth. That's why they're the best. They're just so expensive,
One thing I will say, comparing some of my Daiwas and Shimanos, especially those two brands are the ones I vibe with the most, and taking the spinning reels like the Exist or like a Tatula MQLT, like the newest of the new from Daiwa and the newest of the new from Shimano, I feel like most of the Shimanos usually have a lower inertia from their drag systems and their spinning, and that's why I prefer Shimano's spinning over Daiwa sometimes. And also like you were saying, the specific clicks on something like a Stella is just so precise.
Yep. And George is saying from Canada, what's up, George, that he had to change his drag washers on his ambassadors. Back in the day, drag washers were made out of like felt and plastic, right? Dark, like They had a fancy name for it, but it was basically plastic washers, right? But eventually, companies started going to carbon fiber drags. And I remember a company out of California, Cal's, that makes the drag
Oh
grease.
yeah.
They
Yep.
made carbon tex drag washers, which is a hybrid carbon fiber drag washers for every reel on the planet. So even the Stellas, I don't know if everybody knows this, the Stella SWFAs from like 20 years ago did not come with carbon fiber drags. It's the best reel in the business, but it came with plastic drag washers, right?
Yep.
So we had to upgrade them too, even the best in the world. But now, I think your every standard $150+ reel probably comes with carbon fiber drags, right?
No, you'd be surprised. You'll open up a lot of them, and most of them actually still come with felt.
Wow. Okay. That's like a Penn thing. I thought Penn was the only company that did that.
No, I think even the new Stratics come with felt. I know they say like cross carbon, but a lot of them still run felt in them. I'm actually gonna do that tomorrow when you come in. We'll actually film something and like open up a bunch of reels.
I'm actually going to go into Lake Pro Tackle tomorrow, and I'm going to do a live demo of me sweating bullets, spooling up one of my own personal reels with some line, and we're going to go overcome a different line options because they have more line options than I have at home. So we'll go over the different types of braided lines and what I'm going to choose to spool it up with and how I spool it up so that I don't have breakoffs, so I don't have failures, right? That spooling process is so crucial. You just suck it up one time for like a few minutes, and it saves you so much headache. Like you just don't have to deal with the breakoffs and the line digging into itself. It's mind-boggling. And I know I said no backing, and I really mean no backing. I don't put backing on. I don't care if it's 30. When I first started throwing the bigger baits, quote unquote, I mean I stuck to like sub 3.5 ounce baits. Excuse me. But I threw it on 30-pound braid. And I didn't have that many breakoffs, even though I was not like fluent in throwing big swim baits for bass, but I was fluent in throwing big baits. You know, I was chasing like 30-pound class line records offshore back in the day. So very comfortable with it and confident in it. Confidence is so important. Brandon Dillon says he feels like he's getting a college degree here. It's not so much that, but I don't think people think about all of this. And
dude, did you see Brandon's post at Squaw? Did you see that massive fish kill?
oh, Squaw.
Oh my gosh,
That
dude!
that lake was so overpopulated. They could afford to lose a few. It's okay. If you have problems at Squaw catching fish, I don't know what to tell you.
I talked to one of our customers today. He said he caught 7 fish, and I was like, "Dang, it's tough."
Oliver brings up an interesting concept. He says air temperatures and spray affect the washers and drag as well. It's true, especially like
humidity is a huge thing.
Dry air and humidity, and then I find that most companies actually over grease their drag washers, like from the factory. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll open them up, and sometimes I'll just kind of wipe them off a little bit with like a paintbrush or whatever, and then I'll put them back together. Because like a lot, you'd be surprised. You open it up and it's caked in drag grease.
Absolutely. Hey, I got a question for my stream here. He says he's asking about swim baits. Do you guys have a recommendation for swim baits or glide baits that won't break the bank?
Yeah, there's a lot, dude. When I first started, I wasn't throwing $200 baits right off the get go, you know. So like I'll tell you, sub $50 baits, dude. I think I spent the first year and a half, 2 years almost exclusively throwing sub $50 baits. And I can tell you right off the bat, one of the baits I bought from Lake Pro Tackle very early, and it was the Dual Ninja twitching glider. I think it might have been a $20-$30 bait. I don't know.
Yeah, about 20. I think it was 26.
Yeah, I don't know. I caught so many, like nothing over 8 pounds, but a lot of 4 to 6 pounders, like a lot of 4 to 6 pounders. And then another one that's not very popular is the iSlide 185, which is now called the 187, right? It's the 187R or something.
Yep.
Are y'all getting those in the shop?
We have the Magnums, the Georgia Claw Magnums. I think that's what they're 230 something.
Yeah, but he was asking about sub like $40.
No, I know. Well, Well, sub $40. It really just depends on what size you're looking for. Like, I mean, you can buy like 6-inch rage swimmers. You can buy the Gambler, uh, big G Easy, or what is that, John? The Gambler one, the soft bait.
Oh, the big Jeezy.
Yeah, Jeezy. Yep.
Yeah.
But for hard baits, S waivers, not a terrible bait, guys. There are, a lot better upgraded options of that, but the S waiver is actually kind of where I started. I talked about this in like a stream or a podcast for Scales and Tails. S waiver was basically my first introduction into like big swim baits, and it's just an awesome bait. I would say the 168, I think, it's only
Dude, the 200 was damn.
$20.
The 200,
Yeah.
200 I think the 200 is under $50.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like that was like my first, I guess, 8-inch. Is that an 8-inch bait or a 9-inch bait? It's like 8 or 9 inches. I don't know. That was one of my first 8 or 9-inch baits.
Oh, oh, the Arma joint, duh. $42 or something like that. Yeah. So someone in my chat said Shimano got to change the Arma joint name to Arma John.
I would love to get something from that. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, Vic. Oh yeah, Vic. Thanks for shipping out the baits. Everybody that is on the Lake Pro Tackle stream, those taxi sheds are on Z-Way.
Let me see here.
Yes, Vic, you have to. Hard as fuck. That's correct.
I know we posted a picture of it, of the bait itself. I think that's what I'll post tomorrow or maybe Saturday. Another full picture of the baits that come in.
Yeah. Oh, Jason brings up another good point too. Says the Molex 178. It's also a good, and we've caught a lot of fish. You've seen it.
I'm not familiar with that bait.
The Molex glide. Yeah, it's super low key. I haven't heard a lot about it, but it's a good bait. Like I even caught fish on it at neck when they would not hit any other glide. I was throwing $200 resin baits. They weren't touching it, and then they ate that stupid Molex.
I think Savage Gear makes a really good one too.
I'm glad, yeah.
Yeah.
George said they make actual special drag grease. I used to use Cal's drag grease, and then started using the Daiwa drag grease. I don't know why. I just I like the way the bottle is and how I can use it like it sparingly, really without a brush or anything. So yeah, that's kind of why I did that.
So one grease that I like to use a lot, and I maintenance my reels quite a bit, is actually just white lithium grease. If you have a lot of plastic in your reel, don't use this. If you have like any plastic or rubber parts, don't use this. It'll break down your
what about carbon fiber?
It's fine on carbon fiber. Dude, I have upgraded drags and almost all my reels that are carbon fiber, and I just put it all over.
Yeah, like
I've never had an issue, but I also go through a lot of I dunk my reels in the water sometimes trying to get my crankbaits out and all that. So it washes out really quickly. It's not like a long-term effective grease, but for, the week it's on there, it's super, super smooth.
Interesting. Yeah. So, and also like when I'm going to go back to the spooling your braid, your PE line on your reel. Okay. Everybody that's in the chat right now, like a lot of the people don't. You really do need to be busting a sweat. I mean, like you need to pack in. I can't emphasize how much. And guys, a bait caster, a bass fishing bait caster, is so much easier than a conventional offshore reel for one reason alone. You have a level wind. Like, conventional offshore reels, I had to thumb that sucker all the way across, over and over, under like 20 pounds of drag, dude. My thumbs would just, and I don't like wearing gloves when I'm doing that stuff. So
that's ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know how you do that.
Dude, my entire palms are calloused. My wife is like saying that I have air paws, but it is important. That is the most important. If you get anything away from this, spool the braid on as tight as you can to prevent the braid from digging into itself on your cast in the event you mess up. You will not
Yep.
break off baits. You're like, it is harder, even under, like, especially with abrasion. Now, people, it's kind of like this. If you have 8 strands or 9 strands or 16 strands of line, if you have little nicks in those lines, it's still going to be stronger than, say, fluorocarbon that has like abrasion in it. Okay. But all you really want to do is check, like when you retie your leaders, don't be cheap. Okay. Run your fingers through your line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And cut off, I usually cut off between a foot or 2 feet, okay, of my braided line before I reattach a leader. Now I want to go back into like the benefits of braid to leader, why it's so universal. If you fish braid to leader, there's no application you cannot fish. Okay. Like you can fish a soft bait efficiently. You can fish a glide bait. And this is not just for swim baits, man. You can fish jerk baits on braid to leader. Okay. There's so many benefits to that. Okay. Everything will be so much more sensitive. Okay. Because braid has no stretch. You'll detect a bite almost immediately. Okay. It's just now the fight is the issue with no stretch. That's the only thing you got to consider if you're fishing treble hook baits. So there's always a give and take, but you can adjust for that. Just learn to fight some fish. Yeah, Boyd, he's from my tuna fishing days. He goes, well, we fished Texoma together a lot too, but he says, spooling up an 18,000 Shimano Saragossa with 80-pound braid was a workout. 1,000% that's a workout. It's gonna be brutal.
Oh yeah, Wyatt, you're welcome, dude. I think that came in last night or this morning, one of the two. I got that filled
What did
out.
he order? What did he order?
I can tell you, Philip. Are you good if I say your exact order? I'm looking it up right now. I think it was just swim baits or something. I'll tell you exactly what he ordered.
I don't even know exactly. Hey, Philip, good luck this year, man. I know you're fishing a couple of different circuits in the kayak world. Good luck to you, bro.
He said, yep. All right, let's see. All right, here's his order. He got 6 cents Swank crankbait 77X, 2 Z-Man chatterbaits in Firecraw, 3 Z-Man jackhammer chatterbaits in Chartreuse in white, and a 6 cents Cloud9 Magnum and threadfin shad. All probably to his door here in about a day.
Yeah. Lake Pro Tackle's quick, boy. Quick. All right. George has a question. George. Okay, tell me this. Why, for the life of me, regardless of the pound test, does my fluorocarbon always spiral off my reels? I want to make the switch for certain baits, but I cannot spool it for the life of me. Any tips? Sam, why don't you take this one? The spool fluorocarbon.
So fluorocarbon, so what happens a lot of the time? So you got to think about it this way. Think about all your fibers wanting to run in one direction. So when they put when they put the line on the spool, it wants to sit, let's say, I don't know on the stream, this is clockwise, counterclock. Either way, let's say it goes on clockwise, right? And it's going to sit there for a while. Shelf life, you never know. If it's a brand you like that not a lot of other people like, it's going to sit there for longer and longer and longer. And what happens is the molecules and the structure of that fluorocarbon resin is going to set in a way to where it wants to sit in a clockwise direction. Now, the same principle can be applied to spinning reels, but bait casters, more often than not, is the biggest difference, because with spinning reels, you take this spool, try to spool it on this way to a spool that's located like this, right? So it's almost a 90-degree change instead of a full 180 change when you flip it. So one of the biggest ways and easiest ways to fix that is imagine you're putting the line on exactly the way it's coming off the spool. So if it's going this way, coming off the spool this way, make sure it's going on the spool that exact same way when you crank it in.
Yep. That is 100% correct. Also, George, stop using Seagar Red Label. if you use like, there are certain fluorocarbons that definitely are softer and have less memory, for sure. And it's the memory that's causing the slinky, and I hate that too. God. Oh, well, you're using good fluorocarbon then, man.
That is some good fluorocarbon.
Did
I
you-
think I think I know a guy that really likes that fluorocarbon as well.
Yeah.
Hmm. Cigar is king. Let's go.
Cigar's
It's
not
good in
bad.
a lot of situations. They have a lot of lines.
Well, their
Um,
Abrazex costs as much as Tatsu now. So,
well,
I think Tatsu is a better line than Abrazex. So,
I think consistent. So what I found personally, consistency wise in Cigar line. So Cigar, if you don't know, for those of you who don't know, actually, there are only a few certain manufacturers that create the fluorocarbon resin. So that means all the different fluorocarbons that you see across the market, whether it's like Berkeley 100% fluorocarbon, the Bass Pro XPS line, Cigar, John, what are some other fluorocarbons out there? Sunline,
yeah.
all those major brands, right? There's so many of them. There's only 2 to 3 actual manufacturers of these resins. So, 1 or 2 of these manufacturers that create the resin for fluorocarbon, they make the wide population of your fluorocarbons out there. Cigar is special. They make their own in-house formulas. They're owned by the Korea, not Korea, but KEURH something company. And the consistency in their line is very, very good based on what I found. I've used Cigar and a wide variety of other lines for as long as I've been fishing, and I've really focused on Cigar, whether it's a Tatsu, a BrazeX Gold label, or even the JDM versions like Grand Max for my leaders, and it's been extremely consistent. I have had one bad spool in there, and that's about it. And I've had
That's always gonna
several
happen.
spools of Sunline that have been very inconsistent for me as well.
Is that as of late or in the past? Or is it consistently inconsistent?
But
'Cause I haven't had very much
like
issue with some.
Sunline or like just
Well, here's what I heard. I know that there's only like a
um
handful of companies that manufacture the fluorocarbon, but I know that the manufacturing process for other different companies is different. There are
mhm,
certain ways that they blend the material to create the
right.
line for, like, for instance, Tatsu versus Red
Yep,
Label, right? So there's a definite
absolutely.
reason why one is more expensive than the other. It's always justified. And in fishing line, dude, I think it's safe to say 100% of the time you get what you pay for in
Hmm.
fishing line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't cheap out on my fluorocarbon. I mean, it's I would say the most important part of your fishing, just because I mean you're casting it one every chance you try to get to catch a fish, you cast your
Mhm,
line.
mhm,
The knot, if it's too hard of a fluorocarbon, your
mhm.
knot will crimp on itself. It'll cut itself really quick. Make sure you're tying the right knots for the fluorocarbon you use. Yeah, I think personally, it's just the biggest variable in your fishing day to day.
Yeah. Sam Bird has a question. He says, should have mentioned this earlier, but in regards to knots, aside from finding lighter hollow core, what's stopping us from splicing in place of tying knots? Time, time.
Time, and also the extreme amount of, especially for bass, the extreme amount of focus and attention you're going to have to put towards that line. With ocean stuff or offshore stuff, they're using much bigger line.
Mhm.
So it's easier to stick the splicing a
Even
line
then, you
into
need
it. So,
tools, dude. Even then, you need
right.
tools. Like,
Yeah. You
like
need
I
all the
can't
tools.
splice line freehand. Like I can tie an FG knot freehand and rather quickly now. And we'll show you
Right.
how we do it like tomorrow when I come into the shop and we spool up one of my reels. I don't know which one. Some of them don't have line on them, so I'll just grab one and we'll do that.
So John, one of Tree Hunter One from my chat is asking, after I tried Tatsu, I went back to basics because I found no difference. What can you say on the different, not just trying to prove that Tatsu's better, right? What is
Mhm.
the differences between the process from basics to Tatsu?
Man, I honestly don't know what the actual process is. I just
Oh,
know it's
okay.
different. I did read about it, and when I
Right.
read about it, it was above my ability to comprehend.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So I'll briefly sum up the difference between like most fluorocarbon lines and then the Tatsu. So Tatsu is Seagar's top of the line. What they do with what's so special about Tatsu basically is that it is one single extrusion. So that means they're not splicing their lines together. So with Basex, Red Label, Trilene, even Abrazex, any other fluorocarbon out there, most of the time you have sections. You have 20-yard, 30-yard sections of this line, and it gets extruded and melded together to create your full spool. With Tatsu, they do it all in one go, and the time and precision that it takes to get that full spool, that full 200 yards on there, it is never it's never been cut, it's never been like welded together. And what happens is when you get those welded together areas, a lot of the time the welding process can either be too hot or too cold. So it's a very precise, process to get all those lines put together exactly right.
Well, see, there's a reason why. George says
Now,
Berkeley gross.
Yeah. Well, if you don't find a difference between the two, I mean, definitely keep fishing what you have confidence in, because that again is one of the biggest things in fishing.
Confidence is huge, but if also under like braided line, there are actual differences that you can feel, right? Like when you hold the line. Like I'll give you an example. Max Quattro, very popular, right? Power Pro Max Quattro, claimed to be one of the thinnest diameter braided lines. Well, it's 4-strand. Okay. It's a very coarse braided line. It's not as smooth as you think it is. It's actually quite coarse.
Yep.
It's also loud coming through the water because it is a coarse line. And it's not a good line for throwing moving baits, like swim baits, glide baits, because it does make a sound coming through the water. But it is an incredibly good line for frogging, flipping, punching, pitching, because of the traits of that line. It'll actually like cut through and saw through the vegetation much better than a super silky, smooth braided line.
Right.
Yes, please share this feed, folks, on Facebook. It'd be great.
Yes, if anyone in my chat can share the feed on, on the YouTubes or on your Facebook stuff, that would be super awesome as well.
What are your thoughts on the Shimano line? Or Shimano?
Okay, so interesting you say that. This is a line that I've actually been really impressed with. So I've used the 10, the 12. Currently have 10 on. I've used the 12, and I've run.
He's asking about the braid, Sam. Not the flow, the braid.
Oh, Power Pro. Oh, sorry, Power Pro. So,
well, Power Pro or the JDM stuff, like the OSHA.
Oh, yeah.
Super high end.
Super high end OSHA is really, really nice. I've only been able to use it once, and it wasn't even on my reel, so I got to use it a little bit. It was nice. I have no complaints. I can't compare it to really anything.
You can't compare it to it's like $140 for a 300-meter spool. It's like
right. So it's extremely good. But each braid, like you were saying, they all have their strengths depending on however many strands are in it, whether it's meant to be abrasive, whether it has any other fillers in the middle or something like that. But when it comes to just normal Power Pro, I mean, it's loud, yes, but is it effective? Also, yes. And they also made the V2, which is the super slick.
That's the one.
Right. It's very comparable to like something like the Seagar Smackdown. I believe it's a little bit thicker, just a little bit. But other than that, I mean, you can't go wrong with Power Pro. I mean, they're wonderful.
Fins actually makes a good braid too, like their wind tamer and stuff like that. Actually, not bad. JJ Hall asks, what rod and reel setup for the Defiant 210? Currently, I'm throwing it on a St. Croix Victory SB Avenger. It's a 710 heavy, rated 2 to 5 ounces, but it's way underrated. I throw 6 ounces on it, no problem. And paired it with a Daiwa Tatula 300 6.3 to 1 gear ratio. And on that, I have straight 25-pound fluorocarbon. That's because I'm fishing on Texoma, where there's zebra mussels and stuff like that. If I'm not, I'm fishing around more wood and grass, I will opt to put my Lexa 300 that is actually spooled with 50-pound braid to 35-pound leader.
And that's why, so the Defiant 210, what other swim baits do you run on that setup?
any soft bait like a HUD, like an
Hmm.
8-inch HUD, or I'll even throw a 10-inch mag draft on it. But a Defiant 247, like the Savage gear, RTFs, line
Yep.
throughs, all those. Just any soft bait. And
Hmm.
um
Is that like single hook exclusive? I know you mentioned HUD and the Defiant, or is that
yeah,
also like treble hook?
uh if I'm fishing, I can fish both. I can fish both on it. But on that rod specifically, there's St. Croix rods, as you know, are like really fast, right? And,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's not different with this. There's nothing different with that. This is a fast rod, and so I like fishing jig hook swim baits,
Hmm.
whether they're line through or not, on this rod. Um, Typically, anything over 3 ounces is what I'll throw on this rod specifically. 3 to 6
Right.
ounces is what I'll throw on.
Hmm. Do you guys have suffix out there?
We do, but
Hmm.
I
We
don't.
have suffix at the store. We have I think it's suffix, right? They make the 13 carrier. I think it's like
Oh, Suffix 131. Is that what it is?
131. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
actually a really good line. I bought two spools of
Really
that.
good line.
Yeah, that
Yes.
is a really good line.
131 and the 832. Yep.
Yeah, it's got 13 strands with like a core, right? A center
Yes.
core. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good
So
line.
overall, in terms of like what can you use for spinning, right? In your lower pound test rating,
Hmm.
absolutely wonderful. It's really silky smooth,
Hmm.
but still has that high carrier. And then also on your higher end, like your 40, 50, 60 pound, it is extremely strong and very, very versatile between the two, lows and highs.
Dude, and the color does not bleed. Like
Hmm.
not as
Hmm.
much as like I'll tell you this. I'm a huge Daiwa fan, as everybody knows, but the Daiwa J brake, not the Grand X8,
Yep.
but the
Yep.
standard Daiwa J brake bleeds so bad. Like I bought the yellow one time, and I used to have a 13 Fishing Concept C that was a beautiful pearl white reel. After I
Oh,
got done spooling that reel on, it looked so disgusting, like somebody threw up all over it.
yeah, so back to the Power Pro though. That was one of my issues with the V2 and the regular Power Pro is it bled
Mhm.
extremely easy.
Yeah.
Extremely easy.
Thank you, Anthony. Um, I hope we're helping. If you got any input, I'd love to, hear it on the chat.
I saw Jason said the X9 is really good. I've used X9 a couple times.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if I can do 10. So what I noticed about the X9 is it's extremely limp. Like it's great for real
Yep.
finesse stuff.
It's good for surf
Um,
lines, like surf fishing too, on spin
right.
reels. Yeah.
Yep. So I use the 10 pound, and typically when I'm finesse fishing, I'm throwing like quarter ounce, usually as my max. What I found, one of the weaknesses I found in the X9 is that since it's so limp, it kind of coils itself when you throw into the wind. I've noticed when I had it on is I wind knot all the time, and it might just be me, right? Could
It's
just
just
be me, but I wind knotted probably like 10 casts in a row, and I had to pull out like all the line and reline everything, throw out there. I was
yeah.
like, gosh dang it.
I actually have a Stella 1000 here. I can't even get it out because I got too many damn rods on the rack, but it's got X9 10 pound on it.
Probably just me.
It is. Sam wants to know. So since we're talking about brands, I'm going to ask it. I'm a creature of habit and use Spiderwire Ultracast. I know, but actually Ultracast is not as bad as regular
It's not as
Spiderwire.
bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used the Ultracast blue camo, I think it was.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it wasn't that bad. It's kind of waxy though. That's the one thing I don't
Yes,
like
and that's
about Spiderwire.
yeah. It's a little silky-ish, and it feels odd.
Yeah. But if you break it in, it's okay.
Yep.
That's the one thing about braided lines. You can break them in. Yeah, I know Jason throws his crawlers on straight braid, y'all. Crawlers.
Really.
Yes.
I guess that makes sense. It's a
Beast.
high. It's a well. So with crawlers, right? It's a top water, and typically I always use braid for top waters anyway. But especially with crawlers, it's literally just pulling against you the entire time. So I can't think of really any situation where I'd want to throw either a leader on a crawler,
I do.
but I don't know. I could be wrong.
I throw mono leader on mine.
Jason is savage.
He is a savage. Cisco Loco. Did Rapala buy out 13 Fishing? They did?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow. Isn't Rapala owned by Pure Fishing?
No. Rapala is not owned by Pure Fishing.
No. Well, I'll just guess because Pure Fishing owns everybody.
Right. So if you didn't see in the pro bass fishing world, Dustin Connell has now moved over to dropped Guggen, gone over to Rapala.
Did he drop Guggen or did Guggen drop him?
That's a good question, actually. I should probably ask him.
Yeah.
I know Guggen. So what I've heard is Guggen is in, or I guess technically like House of Outdoors Guggen.
Right.
They're in a financial situation now where they're not where they once were, right? Obviously, COVID, they boomed, and now everything's kind of going on the down for most companies, and they're selling out to these bigger companies. Is what's happening. I heard Guggen is really, really, really getting down there.
I heard they're like dropping a lot of their pros.
Yes,
like,
and even a lot of their employees.
Guys, but they're keeping a lot of the social media guys because they don't pay them shit. They pay them crack and crawls. Okay.
Yes, they pay them crack and crawls.
So like, cost them nothing.
I will say this. So as someone who works at the tackle shop, looks at all the numbers and stuff, and obviously does the marketing. One thing I absolutely hate is that, I love the guys to death. The guys at the Guggen HQ, super great guys. I've got to know them really, really well. My issue is when it comes to being able to buy Guggen and having the Guggen HQ in such a close proximity, even as a retailer, if we were across the country, it doesn't make any sense, right? So Black Friday comes along, and all of a sudden, they're selling like 3 for 1 baits, basically. Buy 3 packs of baits, get 3 packs free, or 4 packs free, or whatever. And they're selling them for lower than what we actually buy them for. So if we try to match their prices, we don't make any money.
Taking a loss.
Taking a huge loss if we even try to compete with what they're doing. And that's one of the reasons we don't have a lot of Guggen baits at the store. Tim enjoys throwing the Bandito bug, as do I. It's a good bait. But that's the only bait we have by Guggen, and that is why we are so reluctant to bring any more in the shop.
Doe Live Beaver.
Okay, well, right now Guggen doesn't have a Doe Live Beaver equivalent.
Some OSP, dude. You need to work on OSP.
Okay, well, I would love a connection with OSP. So if anyone in the chat's got one, hit me up.
Anthony wants to know if on Texoma right now, I'm primarily throwing glide baits or swim baits. Well, it depends, Anthony, on the conditions. And that's something that we'll get into on another, I guess, stream or a post. But it really depends on the conditions. Right now, with all this wind, I'm not throwing a glide bait. That's for damn sure. I'm probably not throwing a big swim bait either. 40-mile-an-hour winds? No. You know what I might be throwing? A 9-inch lipless.
A Nomad.
Nah, well, Nomad's one, but
Nomad's one.
DRT Fish Arrow makes one too.
Yep.
But yeah, something like that. I like this. The big bait game is so hard in like bad wind. Like the weather is good. It's just the wind that makes it tough.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about this in our next live stream come Tuesday, guys. So if you guys are here and you want to tune into the live stream, John, Shin, and I are going to be doing it on the Big Bass Dreams YouTube channel. I don't know if Oliver is going to make it to that one, but hopefully we have another guest in that one, right, John?
Yeah. We'll work on it.
We're going to have someone lined up. We'll figure it out. But we're going to be talking about big baits, especially your soft plastic baits and the big influx of swim baits, and we're super excited for that one. We're going to open the can of worms, talk about the OGs, talk about the newbies, and take out some backlashes, guys. There's been a lot of baits out there on the market. that have not been performing to certain people's standards. So we're going to talk about all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with innovation. I don't have a problem with new baits coming out constantly because I think it is good for this. Let's quit calling fishing a sport. It is good for the hobby.
Industry,
But,
just
um,
industry, it's
the industry,
capitalism.
yeah, it's good for us. It's good for us to have options. Okay. However, I do believe that certain amounts of credit should be, thrown where it's due. But regardless, not everything that comes out is a hit, and it's not, it's
Right.
never been like that. There have been so many baits that came out that were garbage. You know what the fishing industry is good at? Coming out with the bomb
Promoting
bait.
shit.
Dude, nobody talking about that bait because everybody's keeping it hush hush,
Yep.
and then they discontinue it because nobody was buying it except for the guys that knew, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, in all aspects of the world, marketing is such a huge tool to just sell product. You see it all the time. You see your Facebook ads, you see your YouTube ads that just sell absolute pieces of shit. I forgot who it was. Was it you, John, that said like 6 cents can like paint a piece of turd and sell it for like $100? Who is
Mhm.
that?
As long as
Yeah.
Milliken's the one holding up the turd.
And we were talking about it off camera, or maybe we talked about it in our first little intro video. Just fishing literacy, and I think the education of anglers coming to the sport is just so low that they don't learn from all these little nuances, and I guess not really mistakes, because it's not their fault in any way. They're just fathered in basically into buying just new stuff all the time, whether it's good or bad. They just buy it, and most of the time it just sits on the shelf or in the garage. It doesn't even see daylight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, speaking of Milliken, though, I think he's my pick to win the classic. Fucking on that train, boy. Sam wants to know, wind when beating the bank. I have my reasons, but I'd like to hear your opinions to the face or to the back. I think he's asking, would you rather have the wind, if you're fishing from shore, would you rather have the wind to your face or to your back? That depends
Uh,
on how big the body of
Crosswind.
water you're fishing is.
Yeah.
Can you cast all the way across it? Then I want it to my back.
Right. Right.
But if you can't, then I would rather have it. I would rather be facing the wind and getting hit with the wind in the face. If I'm just pitching cover or
Yeah.
obvious lanes, I want it. Like if I don't need to make a long cast, basically, then I'd rather.
A lot of the time, I actually prefer a crosswind. If I can get it going straight across my face, a lot of the time those fish are going to be set up facing into the wind, and
Mhm.
I'm usually going to try to position myself to where I'm casting up towards the wind, down the bank, especially if I am focusing on the bank. Or if I'm focusing like farther off the bank, I'm going to throw it up past that target and let that wind bring that bait down and use that current generated by the wind on the
What if
water.
it's 30 miles an hour and you're throwing a weightless Senko? Then the thing's going to be ripping.
Well, then I'm going to add a split shot weight to my Senko because there ain't no way I'm throwing a weightless Senko in that wind.
George, I have a dual ninja that I've got boxed up along with a few other baits that I've been meaning to send you, but I just haven't had the time to. But it is coming, boss. I promise.
Mm.
Philip says the hangover equal turd. I agree.
You're not wrong. What
I
I
mean,
have noticed though,
for me, for me.
well, we're gonna talk about it in the stream, but I definitely have some thoughts on the hangover itself, considering the eye literally just fell off, and I've thrown this bait about 2 times. Both eyes are already off, so we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk more about that on a later date on Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. Maybe even a little
There
bit.
are strengths. There are strengths in the bait. Not everyone can access them.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yes, I agree. Cisco says I've been buying baits that work where I fish at. I haven't really ventured out into the fad baits. So hype baits.
Hype baits.
Hype baits are 90% of the time good baits. That's why they're
Well,
hype
I don't
baits.
know about 90% of the time.
I mean, I think 90% of the time. 10% of the time, it literally is nothing
Garbage.
but exclusivity from an influential person. Okay,
Right.
that's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like, let's say, I can't think of a bait. Okay, Megabass. Megabass makes almost everything pretty good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Their
mean,
IU Twitcher,
from dino responses to jerk
everything.
baits to
Glide baits, like crankbaits, soft plastics, everything to a pretty jerk baits, obviously, to a pretty
right.
good degree. However, they've even messed up from even the amount of time they spent on R&D. I know that Megabass spends a ton of time and money on R&D every time they put
Yeah.
something out. But that IU Twitcher was a little bit of a disappointment. Okay?
Mm.
And that was such an I anticipated that bait for years, man. They leaked that bait back in like 2018 or something, man.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
called it the Mag Draft Glide Bait. I was like, oh snap,
Right.
soft
And
glide
then it
bait.
dropped off the face of the map. Like it
And I,
was gone.
and I and I think it was because they were working on it. I don't think they just gave up on it. I think they were working on it, developing it, right? Even and because I spoke with Maddie on the bait, and he knows that they were working on it. But when I got it, I was like, this is not what I expected. This is a freaking soft jointed spook.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not really a glide bait. Now I could have probably learned it, dialed it in, turned it into a glide bait by tuning it and
Right.
stuff. But
Speaking of soft glide baits, John, do you have your limited edition 2024 baits next to you? Because
yeah,
I do.
oh yeah, I do.
I do.
Right here,
I got my
new
limited
toys, new
flag.
toys. Flag 255. It has a GD Works 2024 hit on it. This is
Yep.
a
Yep.
limited run. Comes with the 170 and the 150G. These baits and it comes with all these accessories, the lips, some stickers. I don't know why, like I put them on my the boat, the kayak and stuff, but I don't put tackle company stickers on my car because I don't want people to know I fish with
Yeah.
expensive shit, and I don't want them to break into my car stealing my
Well,
tackle.
talk about like hype baits. Like this thing here, I mean, it's got a lot of hype, but it's mainly driven by the low supply. Um, the low supply, the super low supply. I texted John. I didn't even see the post. I have post notifications on. I guess I wasn't paying attention or I was in the shower or something. And literally 4 minutes after I saw them go live, I text John. I say, John, you need to go get them. They're up. He's like, oh shit, son. I'm gonna get them right now. And I think 10 minutes later they were sold out.
Yeah, I told Jason about it too, and he was like, "I got cart jacked." I told my bad, Jason. I told you after I bought mine. I just didn't make sure that this was gonna go through. But you're more than welcome to fish my shit. You know that. But yeah, I don't think the flag is a hype bait, dude. The flag is
Okay,
a
it's just
damn
work.
good thing. It's a
It's a
damn
work of
good
art.
thing. Yeah.
But I mean, I just hyped from. I don't even know if I want to break the seal on this to open it up. I really don't.
Flip it. I'm gonna be one of them bait flippers.
Okay. Well, I did just sell my blueback rainbow or whatever it was.
Oh, did you?
Um,
How much did you get for it?
I got $105.
What? I guess that's
What?
Have you tried boiling the hangover yet?
We can do it right now if you want. I can literally take you into my kitchen and we can go boil a hangover real quick.
Y'all can hang out with him. I'm going to bed if he's going to do all that.
Oh, hey, John. Look, Wolverine's in my chat. The dream guy knows how to catch smallies, but I don't know if he is this guy. Saw a clip and he's on point. Brand may not be on point as it is not best.
What brand?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I actually today I spent a lot of the day whenever I had like downtime at my computer when I was like editing or waiting for stuff to go through. I sent you the text thread, right? I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
the chat.
You sent it to me while I was working, so I could only skim it. I actually haven't.
Yeah. So like it was so funny because he was bringing up like minimum wage and stuff. He's like, "How do you even
Oh
live
yeah,
in Texas?" He's like,
I
how do you live in Texas at $5.25 an hour? I was like, dude, do you even know like how federal minimum wage works? It's definitely not $5.25.
What's up, Danaeus in the house? Whopper Flopper
Um,
just entered the chat. Dude, it's
yeah,
somebody tell
hype bait.
Philip it's January.
What about the jackhammer? Is that a hype bait?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not. Well, now that the
Interest.
Evo is out, it might become one.
No. Okay, so
Or a thing of the
interestingly,
past.
I forgot who it was, but someone posted in the swim bait universe. Swim bait. Oh no, that wasn't his name.
Underground
But he
culture.
posted. No. I forgot the person who posted the post, and he was saying that the Evo, EVO, whatever,
Yeah.
was like extremely the same, and that's something I noticed as well. It's literally the exact same thing as a jackhammer at a cheaper price point, but
Mhm.
yet we still on our end at the back end, people are still buying jackhammers like 10-1 on the EVOs. It's
Yeah, because they
ridiculous.
don't know yet. It's still too fresh.
Right,
That's why. It's still
right.
too
It
fresh.
just came out.
And it's not the swim bait community, dog. We don't travel that fast. Swim bait community will travel fast.
That's true. That's true.
Jason, I have not fished the Hasu Raver. I know of 2 people that got a hold of them. I don't
I
know.
haven't.
I have not fished the Hasu Raver. It's just it's got an extra joint. It's the Aggie Twitcher with an extra joint.
So Wolverine, one thing about Wolverine too is he judges you based on the brands you fish.
He
Only
judges
on
you
brands.
on brands.
Yeah. So if you fish Mega Bass, you're trash because he thinks Mega Bass is trash.
Oh, I got a Mega Bass banner in my room. Or my top room. And I got Mega Bass decals all over my native.
He said yes, sir. He said yes, sir. It's hilarious.
Cisco says, I wish they would put a disclaimer on these packages like, hey, these baits will not work as good from the bank, or these baits should only be used on a boat or a kayak. I wish I would have known before buying $20 jerk baits. You bring up a good point, and I want to address this. Okay?
I'll go after you.
Here's my point. The fact that you have Elite Series pros, BPT Tour pros, basically tournament anglers that exclusively fish out of a boat, that probably spend less than 1% of their fishing time on shore, they cannot teach you what baits will work from shore. They don't know. They can only tell you based on their own experiences, and their own experiences are literally limited to fishing out of a boat, right? I can tell you that there are jerk baits you can work from shore. That also has a lot to do with your line choice. Okay, your line, your rod, a lot of it plays. It's not just the bait itself. When you're constantly, basically 100% of the time, having to present a bait uphill, you have set challenges because you're always working a bait up an incline, right? So you have to use different line. You have to use different cadences and techniques, but it's definitely possible. I've caught a lot of fish on jerk baits from shore, but you're right. You're right in that is a problem because let's say a company like Guggen Squad or Sixth Sense, right? I would say 90% of their clientele or demographic audience are probably shore anglers. Okay, maybe most of them even pond anglers, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but that's totally different. That is totally different from fishing out of a boat with the trolling motor with spot lock, or fishing out of a kayak with a pedal drive and a trolling motor. Totally different. Okay, so there is a huge disparity, and I agree with that. Even when it comes to rods, there are better rods for shore anglers that don't work for boat anglers, and vice versa. But the industry doesn't believe that shore anglers have buying power. That's really what it comes down to, and that's why they're not giving you any attention. And I don't like that, because I know a lot of dudes that fish from shore that fish with. They have an entire arsenal of Antares DC MDs and Leviathan rods, and fish with nothing but G Loomis NRX Plus or Conquest and Metanium DCs. So because they don't have to shell out the money on a $90,000 boat and something fucking going wrong every other week, they have the extra income to buy nice gear. And I would venture to say that because it's such a huge population of anglers, that as a collective, there's a massive amount of buying power, but it's just not addressed. Nobody cares. Except me.
Yeah.
But I can
Yeah, I definitely agree with literally basically everything you had to say there. Especially when it comes to different retrieves, because you bring it generally always bring it up an incline unless you're fishing like a quarry pond or something, or like a specific stock tank. But when it comes to like 110s, I really do enjoy. I mean, you only have to worry about getting a 110 stuck up somewhere if you're fishing.
Well, the one
Unless
time
your
slow
bank
flow,
is super, super flat, way off the
and it
shore.
has a weak bill, so it's not good deflecting
Mhm.
thing. So if you hit anything,
Right.
especially uphill, you're hitting the bill, it's gonna snap.
User friendliness is not there, but effectiveness is definitely there.
Do a better shore jerkbait is like a Yozuri, or
Strike
a
King 200.
uh, actually I would say Lucky Craft, Pointer 100. It's got a
Yeah,
very
pointer 100,
sturdy
absolutely.
bill. It's nearly indestructible. It casts well. It's a good shore fishing jerkbait in my mind. David
Yep.
Richardson is right. The flag is what the Twitcher wishes it was. I agree. Uh, Thoughts on the Hellraiser? I haven't fished the Hellraiser.
It's interesting. What's funny is the Hellraiser actually uses parts, so it's a brand new like main body section, but they actually take the Strike King, what used to be like the Strike King, not headbanger. They actually used to make a chatterbait type thing with what's on the back of the Hellraiser, and that's where I think they got all the parts for it. I will say the bait itself is only effective in certain areas, especially like herring chasing, fisheries, or if you're in a river system. It's kind of like the new bait that oh shoot, who is it? Gosh dang it, I'm forgetting the name. It's a finesse. Uh, Gosh dang it.
You lost
I'm
me at
tired.
finesse.
Okay, it's like a finesse topwater, essentially. It's not like it doesn't make a loud plopping noise or anything like that. It just kind of jitters on top of the water. It's like a spook that you can reel in, essentially.
Mm, mm.
Gosh,
Sam
why?
asks about mag spoons, thoughts, experiences, and tips. I'll give you because my answer is very short. Braid to leader, and you want to flip and stick with a light tip. Okay, a responsive tip, and that's for me, like a long one. I like using the Mega Bass Roots Double X Atlas, and the braid to leader reason for me specifically is
Mhm.
because of the presentation that I can give the spoon while it's fluttering down. You do want to feather your spool when you're dropping a Magnum flutter spoon. Okay, so you kind of like got your thumb slightly on your spool so it falls a little bit faster. Okay, because if you just let it free fall, it's gonna go all over the damn place. Take forever if you, especially if you're fishing deep. Okay, if you're trying to get down to 30 feet, it'll take forever. But braid to leader, the braid will be floating, neutral buoyancy. Your fluorocarbon leader will be sinking a little bit faster when you're fishing like a 30-foot section of fluorocarbon. So the way it falls is different. It's a more vertical fall from where it lands than when you're fishing straight fluorocarbon. When you're fishing straight fluorocarbon and you bomb out a 6.5, 8 inch spoon, mag flutter spoon, and you fire it out 40, 50 yards and it's falling, that fluorocarbon will have drag in front of that bait and it won't.
Okay, so I just muted myself on both streams, Sam. So we talked about this already, kind of the 6-inch plus swim bait. You can do a lot of different things. Obviously hard baits. You're looking at like S Waver 168 or 200. Those are easy entry level baits for paddle boards. Um, when it comes to other hard baits, like a Savage Gear, they make a great one. And if you're looking for something under like $50 or something, John, I see you're not talking. I muted you in my chat, and I also muted myself in your chat. So I'm just addressing my stream here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, sorry. Hard baits, it depends what you want for a first swim bait. If you want something that's very easy to work, there's several different options out there, and typically you're going to have to pay a higher price for the ease of use. Personally, I started out with the mag draft 6 inch. It is very simple to go around and catch fish on, but there's also new swim baits coming in all the time. A great one to use if you don't have a swim bait specific rod, something with like a super heavy action. The News Out Dangerous swim bait is extremely effective. I would go with the shallow version. I have found huge success with it. I've gotten several fish to come up and chase my bait. Right now, it's not the best time for a faster moving swim bait. I had the deep version, so I had to work it a lot faster to keep it going. Other hard baits, again, that Savage Gear, that River to Sea are all great options here. So I'm going to open up John's mic again and hop back in his stream. All right, I'm back.
Yeah. No, he was just saying, like Cisco was making a good point, how a lot of people start off, and it's no matter what style of fishing it is. We always think that we can buy our talent. We always think that we can buy our way to success. It's never the case. Okay. Learning about that's my whole like purpose. Spreading fishing literacy, so everybody becomes better anglers before they go out and drop the loot and be disappointed. You know why I know so much about tackle and stuff? Because I literally bought everything. I bought everything, and I used everything, even if it sucked. I just wanted to see for myself. That's why I bought, and I don't buy just one of everything. Like when something comes out and I really want to check it out, I'll buy like 3 of them, even if I think they might suck. I want to see for myself. So that's kind of why.
That is so true. John will come in the shop and buy 2 or 3 of everything. It's so dumb. It's like, oh, sleeper cries are in. Let me buy half of them because we only get 6 in, and he needs 3 of them.
But yeah, dude. Like sleeper craws is one of those baits where I knew it was going to be good, and then it was good.
I think you knew it was going to be good. I just don't know if you knew exactly how good it was going to be.
No, I didn't. I didn't know. Like I didn't know what it looked like in the water. First of all, I just seen pictures of it, and I knew kind of it was made of this elastomer material. I was like, okay, let's go check it out. And man, it's a Ned rig on steroids. It's a finesse. It's replaced the Ned rig, the finesse jig, all of that stuff for me. That's all I use now.
Have you considered, as like a mod, have you considered putting skirt material in the sleeper craw?
Yeah, but that would just slow it down even more. It already sinks slow for a 5/8 ounce bait.
What's crazy is it's a 5/8 of an ounce, I believe, right? Yep. And it sinks like it's like a 3/8.
It sinks like a 1/4 ounce tungsten jig. It sinks slower, I bet you, than the high-tech finesse jig.
We can test that. We'll put it in the tank with Clark. It'd be pretty funny.
I bet you he eats the sleeper craw.
Dude, he's already eaten a sleeper craw. What do you mean?
Has he really?
Dude, okay. Did you see I don't know if I put it online, but I literally had to do surgery on Clark. I put a Yamatanuki in the tank. He ate the entire Yamatanuki. I literally just let it go, just like trying to watch it go down. I should have figured he would eat the sucker. But I mean, he's this big when he ate it, and that Tanuki is this big. Swallowed it all the way down into his stomach. I had to take forceps down his throat, grab I manipulated his belly to push the Tanuki back up into his throat, pull it out.
Oh my god, he swallowed it.
Ridiculous.
Well, the Tanuki works. Yeah, Dave says that he was afraid that the pinchers would come off every fish, but I've had 2 or 3 sleeper craws lose their pinchers on me, and that's saying a lot. Because how many sleeper craws have I bought, Sam?
Here, I'll tell you exactly how many sleeper craws you've bought.
Don't do it. I don't want to know.
I'm gonna know for my purposes.
But I've only had like 2, I think, lose the pinchers, and like one of them lost both pinchers. And I was still catching fish on it. It just looked like
it's just a Ned rig. It's just a Ned rig at that point.
Right? Yeah. Favorite color sleeper craw? Well, Sam could tell you that. It's probably Scuppernong blue.
Scuppernong blue or Demon Craw recently.
Yeah. Demon Craw, that thing just started working really. It's cold water. That cold, and then like especially with all the rains we've been getting, the runoff, I think stands out.
Yep.
That's what I was fishing when Sam was live scoping 20 yards from me, and Pete was
Oh,
scoping 20 yards in the opposite direction. I fired the demon girl sleeper draw, and I think it was the first cast too. I
dude,
pulled
it's
up to
literally
that.
first cast.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Well,
Um,
this thing has gone on a lot longer than I thought it was going to already.
that's all right. Hey, one of my viewers has a question here. He says, "How long would you test a bait before you felt you had a solid opinion on the lure?"
For me specifically, it depends because on the style of bait. Like I fished in the like for instance, line through swim baits. I have fished
You fished
all of them,
enough of those.
and I've fished them for a long time. I've caught double digits on them. I've caught 5, 6 pound smallmouth on them. So I feel like I'm very familiar with those baits, and I've been fishing them for a long time. So like the hangover when I got it, I already knew what to expect, and I did try different variations of retrieves and stuff. But I knew for me because I don't live scope, the fall of the bait is horrible. So it means it has, and then the fact that you have to work it very fast means you're losing a lot of drawing power. The whole idea of throwing a big softwood bait for me is drawing power. Now we're all different.
See,
Like Milliken,
I'm kind of the opposite. I
right?
use my glide bait for drawing power,
Okay, but
but that's
like you
because I'm
fished
an FFS angler.
but also you fished the rising sun before. How slow
Right.
can you creep that bait and still have it kicking, head wobbling? That's drawing power, you know.
Yeah, so
And
I really only fish the top hook though. The bottom hook, I absolutely know what you're talking about. I can reel that sucker as slow as I want it. The top hook, I target more with forward facing, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, there's a fish. Get it
that's
out
why
on his head.
for someone like Sam, it might be okay. But even for someone like Sam, there are better options, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay, that's the problem. Like, and other style of baits, like generally speaking, I'll fish them. I'll probably have to put in at least 2 or 3 trips on a bait before I really give it a yay or nay. Right? That's kind of how it works. 2 or 3 trips. Also, results, man. You take like the sleeper
Mhm.
cross. Damn, I went Bassmaster Classic. It was that weekend. They got it. I
Yep.
bought it. I went straight to the lake and I caught like 2 4 pound smallmouth.
Yeah, it was like
Right?
4 hours, like 3 4 hours after you bought it. I'm like, how the hell
Yeah.
did you already get to the lake and catch a fish right now?
I was like, that's all I need to see. And then after that, it was just history. Like I just kept
Yeah.
whacking them on it. So certain baits have that in factor. And if you're we're all different anglers, and you'll know when certain baits fit your style better than other baits. Okay?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's a good bait, doesn't mean it's a bad bait. It just means it's a good bait for you or a bad bait for you. It's really
Right.
how it shakes out.
You know, I
Um,
really enjoy this live streaming stuff. Maybe I should do like a nightly mukbang
you
on
can
the
do
channel.
you can do that. I have a wife and baby to get to, so
Oh,
before we all have
see,
bedtime.
yeah, well, night
Well,
shift.
I do thank everybody, Lake Pro Tackle, on my own stream for tuning in. We're going to expand on this tomorrow at Lake Pro Tackle. I'm going to bring in a reel and we're going to spool it up, and then I'm actually going to tie an FG knot there too on the fly. We can time me, see how long it takes, and do all that. But thank you everybody. I hope everybody got something out of this aside from
Yeah.
us just jabbering. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll be in the shop tomorrow, Sam, like early
Yep.
afternoon.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to go live, if you want to just film it, but
We'll
either way.
probably just film it.
Okay, that works. All righty, folks. Thank you very much. Good night.
All right. Looks like we're still on here, guys. I'm going to talk a little bit more with John. Yeah, I don't know, Wolverine man. He says we're all different anglers, so John can say it, but not me. I mean, Wolverine, based on all your comments, like I'm just gonna say it straight up, dude. Like you've been in my comments for the past couple months. Literally everything you say is straight in absolutes. Uh, that I think that's where he's getting it from, because I guarantee he's reading the comments as well. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this little stream. John, thank you for helping me do a little dual stream here. I'm glad that this works out. So now we know in the future that we can do this here. I wonder if we can have 3 streams going at the same time. Wouldn't that be fun?
Maybe, maybe,
maybe,
maybe.
maybe. But guys, thank you so much for hopping in here. Sam, Big D Cheney, Wolverine, C Zarlight, Bennett. Let's see who else was hopping in here. I know we had a bunch of people. Andrew, Sam, Bassassin. Thank you all. Trey Hunter, thank you all for hopping in here, keeping up with us. If you want to see some more really cool stuff, I got a cool video coming out tomorrow talking about winter techniques. It's really going to be focusing on your just standard bait and then how you can upgrade that bait and talking about the different levels of what makes it a good bait in the wintertime, kind of how I like to break that down for y'all. So I hope you enjoyed the stream here. Hopefully you are enjoying the videos, and definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on this thing here. If you want to comment down below, share it with friends. That'd be super awesome. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.
Good night.